This was the first time that Boris Johnson has sat down in front of the cameras in 2020, and the BBC were the ones invited into number 10 Downing Street to grill the Prime Minister. Of course, there was a lot of ground to cover, not least the storm surrounding the royal family and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's move for a new independent role to step back as senior members of the royal family, a bid which the Queen yesterday said she backed, albeit rather reluctantly. The Prime Minister wouldn't be drawn really on the issue, saying he was a big fan of the Queen, but his opinion wouldn't really help this row. Take a listen.
I am a massive fan. I think, like most of our viewers, I'm a massive fan, certainly of the Queen and of the royal family as a fantastic asset for our country. I'm absolutely confident that they are going to sort this out. And you know what? I think they're probably going to be able to sort it out all the easier without any particular commentary from me.
Well, in that statement released by the Queen, she said she had now agreed a period of transition during which the Sussexes will split their time between the UK and Canada. That, of course, presents its own problems, and the Queen has said she wants solutions to those problems within the coming days. So we'll likely hear more on that later this week. On to another transition period now, the Brexit transition period. The Prime Minister was asked about that. That's, of course, what the UK enters into after it officially leaves the EU on the 31st of January in just 17 days' time. That is when the next phase of the negotiations begin, and the UK is expected to reach a trade deal by the current deadline of the 31st of December 2020. Now, experts have branded that as unrealistic. The EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, even last week when here in the UK, said that it would be impossible to reach an agreement by then. Boris Johnson has stuck steadfastly to his commitment to that deadline, and when asked what he felt the chances were in this interview, he said a deal was epically likely, but he refused to rule out the prospect of the UK and the EU not reaching a deal by that time. Take a listen.
You always have to budget for a complete failure of common sense. I mean, that goes without saying. But I'm very, very, very confident that the three verys there that we'll get. This is not about a deal. This is about building a great new partnership. And from January the 31st, what we're going to do is start working with our friends and partners around the world, not just with the EU.
Now, sticking with Brexit, there have been calls here in the UK by MPs, Brexiteer MPs mostly, to get Big Ben to bong in celebration of Brexit Day, January 31st at 11 p.m. But it's going to cost in the region of £500,000 because, of course, restoration works are ongoing on the iconic landmark, and at the moment it only chimes for special occasions like New Year. Now, the Prime Minister said the government was working on a plan, a crowdfunding scheme to allow it to chime. The way he described it was that he would get people to bung a bob for Big Ben to bong. There's a tongue twister for you. Now, on to more serious matters. Of course, the Iran crisis was very much on the agenda during this interview. The Prime Minister urged President Trump to come up with an alternative to the Iran nuclear deal, the JCPOA, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action agreed in 2015. That, of course, is something the US withdrew from a year and a half ago, and Iran have recently violated. Now, as a result of those violations, the UK, France and Germany have now triggered what is known as a dispute mechanism, and that could result in the collapse of the deal. Now, the leaders of the three nations said in a statement they've been left with no choice given Iran's actions, and that move means the future of the agreement really is hanging in the balance and could well be dead in the water. Holly Hudson, SABC News, London.